Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
And today we're going to talk about frozen vegetables.
Yeah, and unfortunately we're not talking about the kind that you buy in the grocery store freezer department. This fall we were forecast to be warmer than average by a minimum of 5 degrees, but probably 10 degrees through at least the end of November. And in a normal fall, we will get a freeze sometime in October that lasts for just a day or two, but it's only like 30 degrees, maybe 28. Well, last night it was 15 here. Night before it was 16. Night before it was 17. So, yeah, this is extreme weather for us.
Yeah, so we took a gamble at the beginning of the fall season.
Right.
We have tomatoes and cucumbers and lettuce and sweet potatoes and
Swiss chard.
bok choy
Yeah.
and a bunch of other vegetables
Right.
growing in our greenhouse. And it's been doing fabulously well. We've had large salads, 2 large salads every day for the last 10 days,
Yeah.
and we have one more salad in the refrigerator.
Uh-huh.
Now, unfortunately, we didn't think, well, we did think, but we decided not to harvest all of the greens last night because we thought it might not, but probably we thought it would survive the night.
Right. Well, it was cold for longer. Normally what will happen is we'll get that real cold spike just around sunup. So 6, 7 o'clock in the morning is when it'll drop to its lowest temperature.
Yeah, so normally it'll be in the mid-20s or upper 20s until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then it drops down from there, and it warms up by 8 in the morning. So normally by 8 in the morning, it's above freezing for certain. And our heating system in the greenhouse is set up to handle those kinds of situations.
Well, by 7 o'clock last night, it was 37.
And by 10 o'clock last night, it was already 20.
Right. And that was our big concern last night, was the length of time it was going to be that cold. If it just spikes for an hour or something like that, right around sunup, you can still usually keep most things. We had a teeny bit of frost burn from yesterday when it was 16. But last night it was so intensely cold for so long that the heater ran to the point where it exhausted all the oxygen in the greenhouse and shut itself off.
So what I'll be doing later this weekend, well, probably Sunday or Monday, is I'll be recalculating the intake and the exhaust for the greenhouse for the heater that we have in there. Now, I'm not convinced that that we ran out of oxygen. We might have, but I have to figure out exactly what's going on. That heater has run perfectly fine for 5 weeks. It helped the greenhouse survive the week of intensely cold weather we had while we were in California, and then it's done the same thing the rest of this last week. Well, last night it failed.
There's intensely cold and then there's intensely cold. We know that it hit 24 while we were gone in California, but it probably only hit 24 for an hour or two outside, which means there was still some residual heat inside. Yeah, we had a little bit of frost nibble on a couple of things in the greenhouse, but mostly it made it pretty clean. The outside garden is frozen, but you expect that at this time of year. We know we need to do some stuff. We played Russian roulette as we do every year with the garden, and we lost this year. But it was interesting because we were listening to another big-time YouTuber gardener this morning, and she said she wanted a do-over. That's the way she felt about the entire year, that it was just a do-over kind of year. You know, their spring was late, so they couldn't get their stuff in. You name it. It happened this year.
Yeah, so I really would like to have several do-overs for this summer. Starting last winter when we had really cold weather, it froze our tomatoes that were in the greenhouse. Now, having said that, we did think last night, well, it's going to be cold. Do we think it's only going to be to the 17 degrees that they were forecast? Probably not.
Yeah.
So Irene went out to the greenhouse,
got a big tray and pulled in every tomato and I have 3 cucumber plants and like, I don't know, close to a dozen tomato plants sitting in the dining room right now, which is fine.
But they're not frozen.
But they're not frozen. They look perfectly fine. There's a little bit of frost nibble on one from the previous night. But yeah, the problem is not just the actual outdoor temperature. Those numbers that we have are actually for the north yard, which is warmer than the south yard. It is actually protected by the house from the prevailing winds, and therefore it is actually warmer in the north yard than it is in the south yard. In the south yard in the summertime is hotter, and it's colder in the winter because it's a more open area that gets the prevailing wind. My bet is if I had a recording thermometer, which unfortunately we don't, for the south yard, that it would be, it's normally at least 2, but it can be as much as 5 degrees difference.
Yeah, it's pretty routinely 5 or 6 degrees colder or hotter in the south yard than in the north yard, which doesn't seem to be right, but that's the way it is, and data is data, and we go with what the data says.
It's microclimates. It's very easy here to create a microclimate by providing shade or providing windbreak. And we know that normally in the wintertime here, we will have some plants that should be frozen solid that will bloom in the middle of the wintertime right along the north side of the house, but it's up against the foundation. So it's picking up the heat. We have an extra thick slab foundation that's designed to hold heat because this is a passive solar house. So that heat does diffuse to some extent for a foot or 2 beyond the edge of the house. So the north yard right there, that one strip, you can grow, you have violas pop up in January, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's really nice to have those flowers coming up.
Really, through the snow, it's very funny sometimes.
But what we're going to do now is Irene's going to go ahead and go out in the greenhouse with the camera and take pictures of our sad, frozen vegetables that are busy melting.
Yeah.
We waited until now because it's warm enough in the greenhouse that all that vegetation that froze last night
will definitely be wilted. When I went out there this morning at 6:30, it was already squishy. Some of it was. The sweet potatoes, the squash were already, So I picked the zucchini and I picked one cucumber. There's another cucumber plant that at least at that time of the morning did not look like it had been killed. And it's possible, as anyone who's dealt with frost before knows, that you can kill a plant here and the plant next to it does not get killed by the frost. So, we won't know until we look at it this afternoon, actually.
So, Irene's going to go out and video
the
sad state of affairs in the greenhouse.
Devastation.
We're not happy about this. It's not what we'd wanted. It was what we'd feared would happen because the weather is dramatically colder now than what it was forecast. Usually, we'll be in the very upper 20s, low 30s at night until December. We'll have, as Irene said, a day or 2 of really cold temperatures. And we've already survived a couple of weeks of temperatures that were well below 20.
Right.
And we just lost last night.
Oh, well.
But this is real. This is what happens when you're gardening in colder climates. It's interesting because the people that we were watching this morning that Irene was talking about who said their garden was going to freeze last night has not dealt with the kind of temperatures that we're dealing with, even though they're in the same growing zone. And that's the topic for a future video. But boy, growing zone designations don't tell you the whole story.
Not even sort of. It's almost a joke.
So, without more ado, Irene's going to go out and film in the greenhouse. In the meantime, I'm going to get busy editing this so we can put it up tomorrow, Friday. It's not what we'd planned. It's not what we had in the can. But we think it's important to show people what's really happening on our homestead, more or less in real time.
Right.
It's not real pretty. It's not real good. It's not what we'd wanted. We still have some things alive, and we have the plants that we brought in last night that survived.
Right.
And we'll start all over again.
So we'll take a good look. Some things are obviously toasted. Some things we had been planning to harvest anyway. So first in the category of we were planning to harvest this anyway is these 1, 2, 3 buckets right there. Those were all sweet potatoes, and they're not liking the chilliness. So we had planned to harvest them today, actually. Anyway, So we definitely do need to dig them up. We wanted to do a separate video on that because it was a big experiment, and we decided to do it this year just as a sort of a lark to see if we could grow them. The plants grew really well. They were also completely mangled at one point by a bunny rabbit, but that's another story. So let's take a quick peek around some of the other things around here. Here we have what used to be 2 tomato plants. I chose not to take these in last night because, first of all, I thought that moving them down closer to the heater would help. And second of all, because they were big enough, especially this one, that it would have been really hard for me to move it without breaking it. But obviously that wasn't a great decision, and they are toast. They are both frozen completely. So that's very sad. One was a red delicious and the other was a big beef. But no more. This tray here is the tray that accidentally didn't get watered enough while we were gone, and it's doing fine. I see a bunch of cabbage that made it, and even one silly little lettuce seems to have made it perfectly fine. He just must have been in the right spot at the right time. The pak choi could care less about the weather last night. It's doing fine. I need to start harvesting it, but other than that, the onions didn't care. The cabbage also didn't care over here. This cucumber cared a lot. It had been previously damaged the night before. This brown stuff here was the night before it got bit. And I just decided that while I was dramatically juggling things last night, that since it was already damaged, I wouldn't try and bring it in. This poor thing here was 2 zucchini plants, 2 different varieties. I did bring in the zucchinis off of this morning. And so far it looks like they're going to be edible. They're babies, but that's okay. You pay good money for baby zucchinis in the store. This was 2 yellow squash and a cucumber. And there are some baby cucumbers in there, but I don't even think they're worth picking off. They're too little. I had great hopes for this one because it was really quite a nice looking plant. Now, let's see if anybody made it over here. Red delicious is not looking delicious. We are thinking about pulling some of the fruit off of some of this stuff to see if we could get it to ripen. On the Better Boy, we have some fruit, and I think I will pick that off just to see if we can get it to ripen. We have a ton of fruit on the Pisano. This is the one plant I was really hoping would make it. There are some green leaves on it, but I really don't think it's going to come back. So I'll probably just pull all these off today, and we'll take them in and see if we can get them to do anything. This was radishes, and it had exactly 1 radish that had sprouted since I planted, and it's right there, and it looks perfectly fine. But radishes are tough, and I expect as this gets more sun, and I can see there's another one trying to come up right there. So the radishes will be fine. We grew radishes all winter last year. I just cover them with an extra layer of plastic on nights that are going to be extremely cold, and they do fine. I can see that there are a couple of beet leaves, like this one here, that got frozen. We'll see. I think most of them look fine, so I can also cover that at night. I'm going to rearrange some stuff in here. Unfortunately, I have a doctor's appointment, which means a long drive today, but I'm going to mush some things around in here, and we'll reorganize. Now, this was, or is, the lettuce. I'm not seeing any damage in here yet. I picked it for dinner last night, and it looked fine. Now this bean, this bean plant has definitely had it. So the Gita bean will be coming out. This was a cucumber plant, yes, and I've already pulled the 1 cucumber off of here, which was not frozen. His buddy over here, and Henry can eat those. They'll be small, but hey, better than nothing. This particular batch of lettuce looks fine. It's romaine and a couple of different kinds of salanova, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I keep looking, expecting to see some burn somewhere, but okay. The cabbage back here could care less. They're doing happiness things. This bean in the middle, that definitely is toast. That was a vortex. this stuff up front here, this is Swiss chard. Again, it could care less. It's doing fine. It may have a little bit of damage on it, but historically I can pick Swiss chard a good bit of the winter. So now the weird thing is this cucumber plant actually may have survived. I'm really not seeing any amount of damage on it. This one actually may have made it, which I'd be perfectly happy about, of course. And obviously the more cabbage in here. So all in all, it's not a total disaster. I had actually expected to be harvesting out the lettuce sooner than I am, but it's grown so well that I haven't been able to use it all up. What's funny here is that this sweet potato plant is not completely dead. You see, this was protected by the top leaves on the plant, so it survived. So I still want to get these harvested in the next 24 to 48 hours. I was hoping to do it today. We'll see. Henry's saying we could get it done today. I'm saying with our schedule, I don't know, but I guess we'll see what happens. But we wanted to talk about that. We wanted to do a separate video about that because that's been a real adventure for us. We've learned a lot, and we have every intention of trying to do it again next year because we really, really love sweet potatoes. And if we could get, I mean, it's just the two of us. If we could get enough sweet potatoes to be able to eat a couple of meals of sweet potatoes just for a couple of months, hey, bonus. And it's kind of fun. They're a pretty plant. Well, you can see how excited Jack is about this entire thing. He's doing his best to hold the floor down and make sure that, you know, actually it's like 80 degrees in here, and he's very happy because he likes the warmitude. So back to the house.
Well, thanks very much for watching. I don't know what you think about what you saw in the greenhouse. It was interesting.
I hate squishy vegetables.
So, thanks very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you like this craziness that we're showing you here. Hit the bell for notification. That tells you when we've published something new. Again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.